Hello, I'm Grady Mathews. This instructional tape is intended for the benefit of the intermediate and advanced players. I do suspect that some of the principles covered within will prove of value even to the expert. However, no instructional tape of any sort would be complete without some comments on the bridge, the grip, and the stance. The grip, the cue stick should be held with the whole hand, or even like this. Some players hold the stick like this, but the general idea is that you're really only holding the cue stick with the thumb and the forefinger, and loosely with these three fingers until the moment of impact, at which time the whole hand grips the cue stick. The stance, there's been a lot said and written about the stance. The most important thing is just to be comfortable. I would never tell somebody that they couldn't play because they stand such and such a way. As far as the bridge goes, an interesting thing that's come to light recently is that the Canadian and English players feel that American pool players cheat themselves by using a closed hand bridge like this. They feel that the finger going over the top of the cue stick deprives them of a full sighting on the cue ball. However, it is a general opinion of most American pool players and all the great champions that have ever played the game in this country that the closed hand bridge is the best for pool. And that about covers those three items insofar as intermediate and advanced players go. I'd like to go right to our first shot, which is an umbrella shot. That is a billiard shot where the cue ball strikes two rails, the first object ball, and then continues on to do something else. In this first example, I'm going to go two rails. I'm going to hit here, here, then the one ball, and I'm going to leave the cue ball behind the 2 and 3 ball for safety. As you can see, that's a good safety. Now, if the balls were laying like this, the umbrella shot would be a good shot to pocket the 9 ball. All right, one of the most overlooked shots in pool is a shot of this nature, where most people want to just shoot the combination automatically, where that's really the wrong shot. The right shot is to shoot the 1 ball off the back side of the 8 ball. It's a very easy shot, and with a little practice, you'll be able to do this almost every time. All right, in this case, it's the same type of shot, and I need to get position on a 3 ball. So what I'm going to do is shoot this 2 ball off of the back side of the 4, and I'm going to go 1 rail and down the table for position. Masse shots should only be used when absolutely necessary, as they do not afford a high degree of accuracy. In this first example, I'm going to masse the cue ball around the 4 ball and pocket the 3. Now, this type of shot at close range is best shot at a slow speed. This time I'm going to curve the cue ball around the 8 and pocket the 4 ball. Now, this is a basic starting point for calculating certain types of masses. The cue ball, as you can see, is laying roughly on the first diamond. Now, when that happens to be the case, all you have to do is aim at the first diamond by the pocket, by the corner pocket down there, and it should carry you right to the corner. In this case, the 4 ball. Obviously, adjustments can be made from different places on the table with extreme accuracy for that kind of shot. Okay. Now, this is the same shot off of the short rail. The same thing. I'm going to go right towards the first diamond there with medium speed. And that principle works real well when figuring Mathews. All right, now the Mathews as a position tool. There's a lot of situations that arise in pocket billiards where you can actually use the Mathews as a position tool. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples here. All right, this first example, I'm going to shoot the 2 straight in the pocket, and as you can see, I'm over the 4 ball, and I'm going to make the cue ball go over here for position on the 3 without contacting this rail. Now, the reason that the cue ball came over this way when I was straight in is because I Mathewsed the ball and made it curve, so instead of hitting the 2 ball straight forward, I actually cut it in the pocket and the cue ball had to go over there. All right, this example's laying a little bit differently. What I'm going to do, I'm still straight in this corner, and I'd like to get position on the 5 ball. So what I'm going to do is Mathewsed the ball again and make the cue ball come right out here. Okay. The cue ball should be relatively close to the object ball in order for this to be a high percentage shot. When it gets farther away, too much adjustment has to be made for the curve of the cue ball. All right, in this example here, I want to play position on this 5 ball for this pocket. And because I have balls in the way, I cannot go down the table and back up, and even if I did, I would take a chance of scratching. So what I'm going to do is Mathewsed the ball and make the cue ball, after it hits the 3, come back this way for position on the 5. That's a good 1-pocket shot. Okay. Okay, 2 varieties of the same principle, and these are important shots at pocket billiards. In the first case, I'm going to shoot the 5 straight in the corner, which I am straight in, and I'm going to curve the cue ball just enough to force it to about here on the side rail, and it will have enough spin on it to carry it down the table for position on the 6. All right, the same shot, if I wanted to get position and I couldn't get over here, if I had a ball in the way, I can go straight down the table with Mathewsed. Okay, let's see what I got. Okay. This is a shot that comes up all the time playing 9 ball. I'm straight in on the 8, and the problem is to get down the table on the 9. Now when the object ball is laying like this, about 3/8 of an inch off the rail, there's more than one way to do it. Rail first is probably the best way, and I can do that with follow, draw, or center ball. We'll start with the high ball. The second way is with draw. Later on in the tape, I'll show you how to measure rail first shots. The third way is with a center ball. And finally, a shot that the old-timers used to shoot with regularity and amazing accuracy. In this shot, I'm going to make the cue ball jump up on the rail, or jump up in the air and bounce down on the rail and go back down by the 9. Okay, all four of those methods are used to advantage at 9-ball. When the cue ball is frozen or nearly frozen to an object ball, there are some very good methods for achieving position. In this case, I'd like to play position on the 9-ball, but I don't want to foul the cue ball. Now the way to do this is to kill the cue ball by hitting it with low English and having a nice follow through. Okay, now the same type of shot, but this time the 9-ball is at the same end of the table as the object ball I'm shooting. So what I'm going to do is cut the 2-ball. I'm going to shoot off in this direction, which would throw the 2-ball into the end rail. So to take that throw off of it, I'm going to have to put some right-hand English on the cue ball. This time I'm straight in the corner, and I would like to get position on the 9. Now, if I shoot the cue ball this direction, it throws the 5 into the end rail, and it puts a little bit of right-hand English on the 5. So to take that off of the 5-ball, I need to put right-hand English on the cue ball, and I'll go 2 cushions for position. Okay. Here's the same type of situation, only this time I would like to go to this rail. So if I shoot this direction here, it's going to throw the 5 into the side rail. So to take the left-hand English off of the 5-ball and remove the natural throw, I'm going to use left English on the cue ball. Now, how much I cut the object ball determines in large part how much English I have to put on the cue ball. Now, there are at least 2 other methods of achieving this type of position. One is to elevate on the cue stick and actually get a little bit of draw on the cue ball. Okay. As you can see, with a little trial and error practice, you can play position to almost any point on the table off of a straight-in frozen ball. The frozen ball principles are invaluable when it comes to safety play. I'll show you a couple of examples here. In this case, I'm going to 3-rail the 1-ball right around like this, and I'm going to kill the cue ball over here behind these balls. Okay. All right, here's the same type of situation from a little different angle. This time I'm going to knock the 1-ball twice across the table and put the cue ball right in this area here. So you can see it's a terrific safety shot. The soft stroke is also invaluable at safety play when the balls are frozen. This time I'm going to shoot this with an easy stroke and put the cue ball behind the 4 and 5. Okay. And that shot comes up a lot of different ways at 9-ball. It's a terrific safety tool. Now next, on that type of frozen ball shot is how to play billiards on balls that are in the pocket. Now if you were playing 9-ball and wanted to make this 9, I have no shot on the 1-ball. It's an easy shot if you know how to figure it. All you have to do is take the line that the cue ball and the 1 make, which is to right here, and the line from the cue ball to the 9-ball, and you dissect that right about here. Should take me straight into the 9-ball. I couldn't do it. Now I'll shoot that from a couple of more angles so you can get the idea of it. All right, this time I have the line here on the cue ball on the 1 and the line here on the cue ball on the 9 ball. That puts me right about towards this 7 ball to make this billiard on the 9. Here's a little harder to see example of the same thing. I have my line here, and my line here, roughly here, should take me to that 9 ball. It has long been recognized that whatever English is applied to the cue ball, the opposite English is transmitted to the object ball. Anytime an object ball is cut, that is to say, hit in any manner other than straight ahead, the object ball receives English by the mere expedient of being cut. If I shoot this 1 ball into the corner pocket, the cue ball goes through the right-hand side of the 1, forcing it to go from right to left or right-hand English. Now, that translates to curving in a very small arc from left to right as the 1 goes towards the hole. Obviously, only so much English may be transmitted in this manner. Certainly not as much as may be applied to the cue ball. So how may this principle be of value at pocket billiards? All great players want to know if an object ball has any English on it. They will often apply opposite English on the cue ball to take English off of the object ball. They do this because an object ball with English on it will curve, however slightly, because of the English. There are 3 other reasons for wanting to apply English to the object ball. To help it go into the pocket, firstly, and I'll show you an example. On a shot like this, if the 1 ball has right-hand English on it, it greatly enhances its chances of going in the hole. So I'm going to cut this ball and put right English on it. And as you can see, I hit it a little badly, which I tried to do, and it still went in. Secondly, to curve around another ball. And that is called a passing shot, and I'm going to demonstrate 2 or 3 examples of that. Now, the passing shot is simply a shot where you curve the object ball around another ball. And you do this by putting English on the object ball. Now, if I had a shot like this where I wanted to make the 4 ball in this corner, it would be a very easy shot if I could just put left-hand English on it and shoot it right in the hole, because it goes from right to left. So, the best way for me to get maximum left-hand English on this 4 ball is by cutting it. Remember, I'm going to force the left-hand side of the 4 around from left to right. That's left English. And I'm going to put right English on the cue ball, which puts a little more left English on the 4. And I'm going to shoot it with a nice, smooth, medium soft stroke. And that is the way you would want to play position on such a ball, because with only half a pocket, I need every advantage I can get. Now, if I were on this side of the ball, like if I wanted to make the same shot, I would probably jaw the ball. That's what I wanted to show right there, is that that ball was hit just as well as the other one, but I was laying on the wrong side of it to get the right English on it. Okay, the 3rd reason for wanting to put English on the object ball is to make English banks. In this first example, I have no reasonable shot at the 7, so what I'm going to do is bank it back in this corner by applying right-hand English to the 7. Now, to do that, I need to cut the 7 with a nice center ball hit and a little bit of left-hand English. Okay. Here's a short rail version of the same shot. One final example of an English bank would be like this. The 6 ball is in the way of my banking the one here. But if I were able to hit the one a little bit higher and have some right-hand English on it, I could get by the 6 ball. So I'm going to put extreme left English on the cue ball, which puts as much right English as I can get on the 1, and we'll try to bank it past the 6. There we go. Okay. Good. The natural throw involved on combination shots is proportionate to the thickness of the hit by the first object ball and the second object ball. In this example, the 9 ball cannot be pocketed by striking the 1 ball on the outside because the 7 ball is in the way. And if I shoot the 1 towards here, I will throw the 9 ball into the side rail. But there is a way to pocket the 9 ball. I just imagine to myself that I'm going to make the 1 ball into the cue ball, and if I make this 1 ball hit the 9 as thinly as possible and shoot hard, because the thinness of the hit will make the 9 move slowly, I'll be able to alleviate the situation of the throw and the English. So what I'm going to do is just cut this 9 straight in the hole with a good firm stroke. That shot comes up more often at 1 pocket and straight pool than it does 9 ball. Here is a system for 1-rail kick shots that is indispensable to the redoubtable player, especially useful when balls are in the path of a normal kick shot. Okay. In the first example, from the side pocket, through the first diamond should carry me straight to the 1 ball or this corner with low left-hand English. From the corner pocket, the first diamond should carry me straight to the side. Lengthways, corner to corner, the first diamond should carry me to the 6 ball. Now, adjustments are made with this system in halves, like most 1-rail kicking systems, as I'll explain to you later. Now, the starting point is very important. I know that from the side pocket, the first diamond carries me to the corner. Now, of course, the starting point may vary on certain tables due to atmospheric conditions or the newness of the cloth or what kind of tip you have or what kind of stroke you have. All right, adjustments are made like this in halves. If I'm 2 diamonds farther, as I am in this example, from my starting point, which is the side pocket, I come half of that distance higher from my first diamond starting point. So if I'm 2 diamonds farther, I come 1 diamond up with low left English, and it should take me straight to the 8 ball. This system is especially good for flat angles. Like if I wanted to kick this 8 ball in the hole, obviously I would be better off to come in at a flatter angle like this than I would a steeper angle like this. Okay. As you can see, you can come close on all shots of that nature. Okay, let's see. All right, I wanted to show this other shot. All right, it's good to get thinking in halves when you're talking about kicking systems. Now, in this case, I would like to kick the 5 ball in the hole, and let's say, for an example, that I can't hit down in this part of the rail. In fact, I'll put some balls up here. All right. Right before the side, or roughly shooting through what would be this diamond, with low left or low right-hand English should carry me straight to the 5. Now we come to the 1-rail, no English kicking system, which is invaluable if you're ever going to be a good safety player or a good 1-pocket player. This system works strictly in halves. Now, to go from where I'm sitting in this pocket to this corner, I have to hit exactly the middle of the table. That's no English. Adjustments are also made in halves. For an example, if I were 1 diamond over from my starting point, well, I would actually have 1, 2, 3 diamonds here, so I would go over 1.5 diamonds, and that should carry me straight to the 1 ball. Okay. From the side pocket, the same thing. The middle diamond, right through it with no English, should carry me to the 4 ball. From the corner to the side. Okay. It is important to remember that from where the cue ball lies, wherever it contacts the rail, it will go to a parallel position directly across from where it is sitting. For an example, the 8 ball is directly across from the cue ball on the 2nd diamond, so therefore if I hit the middle diamond, it should take me straight to the 8 ball. As you can see, I hit it full in the face. Now you can use that principle from all over the table. Now I would like to show you how to measure 1 rail kick shots. This has been called a mirror system, or it has other names. I don't really think of it as anything except a 1 rail kicking system. Actually, it's pretty simple. If I want to kick the 8 in this pocket, I take the same distance from the edge of the 8 to the rail, and I come past the rail the same amount. And I'm going to use a piece of chalk, which they won't allow you to do in a match, just to illustrate the example. Now, to pocket this is a running English system. I need to make the entire cue ball be to the right-hand side of this point with nice medium speed, and I should pocket the 8 ball. Now, that principle can be used to great effect for safety play. I'll show you 2 examples. All right, in this case, what I would like to do is go rail first and hit the left side of the 1 ball, right, a 1/4 of the ball or 1/3 of the ball or so, and then continue on 1, 2, and up behind these balls. Now, just using a rough estimate of the mirror system, I can see that a line like this would take me close to cutting the ball in, which is a stiff going rail first just about. And I need to be about a ball thicker, so we'll have a stab at it and see what happens. Not nearly as difficult as it looks. Now change the situation around a little bit. Now, this time, because I have no balls in the same area I did before, I would like to go behind these other balls. So, using the same thing, a rough estimate here of the mirror system, I don't want to hit it as thin as if I were trying to cut the 1 in the hole, so I'm going to come over about 1/2 a ball, and I'm going to try to hit the 1 and then go 2 cushions and end up behind these balls. It's a great safety shot. You can use it from all over the table. Okay. How to measure off-angle 1 rail kicks, and bear in mind that when the cue ball has a very short distance to go before it contacts the rail, that it will have a tendency to lengthen out. In that type of situation, an adjustment will have to be made. For kicks of a normal nature, which are not within the framework of rail-to-rail kick shots, there are several ways to measure with accuracy. I am going to demonstrate to you the easiest of those. Remember what I mentioned earlier about wherever I hit on the rail, the cue ball will go exactly twice as far in a parallel position with the cue ball. Now, for the sake of making this easy, I've set this cue ball 1 diamond out, right even with the end rail first diamond and the third rail here. Now, if I were to just guess at this shot, if I were to hit the end rail, that's a diamond over from the first diamond on the end rail, so it would take the cue ball right up to here. So if I were to extend the stick from the middle diamond right up through here, as you can see, I would miss the one ball. Now, if I were to go a half a diamond over, it would take me one diamond, which would be right here. That would be too long, as you can see from the extended line from the rail up my cue stick. So if I come over about like so, it would be just right. As you can see, I come here and it carries me twice the distance. Actually, if you want to figure it another way, the distance from here to here, from right over here on a parallel line with the cue ball. So right there is going to take me to the one ball. Okay. With English, the first diamond carries me straight to the corner, and it's been raining outside today. It's a little bit humid, so I'm going to go about an inch past to allow for the humidity, and that should carry me straight to the four ball. From the corner pocket, the first diamond with English takes you straight to the side, and again I'm going to allow slightly for the dampness. From the end rail, the first diamond to the left of the corner pocket carries me straight to this corner. From the corner, 2.5 diamonds with English carries me straight to the 5. Several factors of an important nature come into play when kicking. Humidity, condition of the cloth, speed, what type of tip is being used, etc. With practice, the calculation of where to hit the rail is done almost automatically. Adjustments to the aforementioned intangibles also becomes second nature. The perceptive viewer will already have discerned that the no English one-rail kicking system is an excellent guide to high-caliber banking. Of course, it must be remembered that object balls acquire English when struck in any manner other than straightforward, and allowances must be made for this physical law of the game. One-rail running English system. To go one rail to the corner, these two short diamonds correspond to each other. This one to this one to this one, and then from the corner, 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5 goes to the corner. That's with running English. This only varies on these two short rail diamonds. It has a tendency to go short, so you have to play it about an inch longer. This diamond corresponds to this one, and this one should roll very truly. Paralleling the cue ball works very well on this type of kicking system. For an example, if I wanted to kick this 7-ball in and I'm not quite on either set of diamonds, I take the closest set, which is right here, and I run the cue ball on a parallel line, which would be right here, so right here should carry me straight to the 7-ball. To kick 2 rails, as a starting point, the side pocket corresponds to the first diamond on the end rail with running English. This diamond corresponds to this one. again with running English. Okay, now when you get to this diamond here, it doesn't go all the way to this diamond, you go to a half a diamond. Paralleling the cue ball also works very well with this system. I'm not going to go into three cushion systems excepting a rather elementary paralleling method. I do advise anyone who takes this great sport seriously to go to the trouble of at least learning the basic three cushion system. From the corner here on most pool tables, 2 3/4 on the third rail, that's 1, 2 3/4, will carry me to this corner. Now, that means that I have to hit 2 1/4 on the rail. That doesn't really concern players who don't play three cushion system. What's important is where you hit on the first rail. Now, because it's a little damp outside, I'm going to go about 1/4 of a diamond longer, and I'm going to shoot straight through 2, which should take me to 3 and subsequently to the 2 ball. Now, since I know that, I can make adjustments by simply paralleling the cue ball. For an example, if I were up here like this and I wanted to kick the 4 ball in the hole, I take my line from 2 to the corner, and I take a parallel line, which puts me right there, about 1 1/4. That's a very basic system. A 10-year-old girl could kick in balls like that. Now, if you were playing and you wanted to adjust it a little bit differently, let's say that I were over here like this. Now, I would like to kick in this 9-ball combination. All right, I know that 2 takes me to this corner if the cue ball's sitting in the corner, but the cue ball's not sitting in the corner. So making a parallel line, if I wanted to go to this corner, I would come over here roughly like this. 3 on the first rail would take me to the corner, but I would like to be a diamond longer than that, so I'm simply going to go right straight through 2 with running English, and that should carry me into the 5 ball. It's almost impossible to play good safety or be a good kick shot player without playing three cushion systems. Okay. Whatever English is applied to the cue ball stays on the cue ball even after it has contacted 1 or more rails, and regardless of the direction of travel of the cue ball. This principle may be graphically illustrated with the forced draw shot. All right, in this first case, although I could play position on this 4 ball in a number of ways, to illustrate my point, what I'm going to do is force the cue ball to go out here and then begin to come back this direction for position on the 4 in that right-hand corner pocket. Okay. Now, this example could arise in a 9-ball game. What I'm going to do is pocket to 1 and make the cue ball come out here, and then the forced draw will bring it up into the 9-ball. It is sometimes necessary to make the cue ball jump after contacting an object ball in order to play good position. This shot requires less elevation than generally assumed. A downward stroke into the cue ball will get the job done. In this first example, I'm going to jump over the entire stack and make the cue ball go to this rail and down here for position on the 4-ball. Okay. This time, because the ball I'm going to play position on is laying a little bit differently, I'm going to go past the side pocket to this rail, and I'm going to continue on another rail and up here for shape on the 4-ball. This time I'm going to go over the stack and not contact any of the side rails. I'm going to go straight down the table. As you can see, that's a valuable position shot. You can use it from a lot of different angles. Now what I'm going to do here is shoot a high ball position shot. I'm going to shoot the 3 in the corner, and I'm going to play position on the 4-ball in this pocket. Now as you can see, I can't draw the ball around 2 cushions. I can't go forward 2 cushions. I can't come 1 rail up here. But there is a very good high ball position shot here. I'm going to make the cue ball after contacting the 3, go to this rail, and as it comes up here, it's going to hook, and we'll have shape on the 4-ball. Okay. I tried to make that example a little bit difficult, but I think you can see that that would be a good position shot for 9-ball. Now I would like to shoot a little montage of high ball shots so that you can get a general idea of how useful it can be as a position tool. The only explanation I'm going to give on these shots is what ball I'm going to play position on. I'm going to shoot the 10 in the pocket and play position on the 8 for the same pocket. Okay. I'm going to shoot the 8 in this pocket and play position on the 2-ball for the same pocket. Okay. The same type of shot, a little different angle, and this is really a useful shot, especially at 9-ball. This time, I'm going to make it come out here and hook around where I'll have shape on the 5-ball. This time I'm going to play position on the 9-ball in the left-hand corner. This time I'm going to play position on the 9 in this corner. On shots like this, where it looks like I have a good chance of scratching off of the 9-ball after I pocket the 6, a high ball removes that risk, using the principle discussed earlier of the English remaining on the cue ball after it contacts anything. The same English stays on it. So what happens is, after making the 6, I have high English on it, the cue ball hits a 9, and it comes off this direction, but the high English forces it to go to the end rail, so there's really no chance of a scratch. You could almost see that ball hook a little bit. That's the general idea of it. Okay, this is another high ball shot that on certain occasions comes in very handy. This time what I'm going to do is shoot the 2-ball in the left-hand corner and make it curve around these balls and down the table for position on the 7. to. The same shot can actually be shot, and I think billiard players who might be watching this tape will get a kick out of this, because this happens to be a billiard shot that I've never seen shot in exactly this way. This time what I'm going to do is hit this ball with a just above center ball, and I'm going to try to make the cue ball go to this rail, and with spin down the table for shape on the 7. Now I'd like to show a couple of center ball reverse English position shots, and these are kind of cute if I do say so myself. In the first example, what I'm going to do is pocket the 1 in this pocket, and I'm going to play the cue ball off of this rail. I'm going to use a center ball in extreme left-hand English. The cue ball should move slowly to this rail and then spin down here for position in this pocket on a 3 ball. This time I'm going to shoot the 1 in the side pocket, and I'm going to play position on a 3 ball. This is also a billiard shot. Center ball, right-hand English. The cue ball comes over here slowly with a lot of spin and goes on 1, 2, right in there. That shot can also be used to go all the way down to the other end of the table if necessary. This next shot is a little known position shot with a center ball and reverse English that I actually prefer in this situation, although I can see about 4 or 5 different ways to get position on the 9 ball. What I'm going to do is shoot the 7 in here. I'm going to use inside left English with a center ball. Cue ball goes here, then to this rail, and spins up to be straight in on the 9. I like that shot a lot better than trying to go 1, 2, and over here you eliminate the chance of a scratch. When you're playing safe and you have a free shot, it's very important not to leave the ball too close to a hole, because good players will kick a lot of that type of shot in on you. For an example, here, if I were going to bank this 1 ball for this pocket, assuming I couldn't make the 1 up here somewhere, and I'm going to leave the cue ball behind the 8 and 9. All right, if I make it, I'm going to have a shot on the 2 ball and I'm going to be out. And if I don't make it, I want to at least give myself a chance to win by hitting the ball hard enough to reach the hole, and I want to take away from my opponent the chance to kick in a shot which is hanging in the hole. So I would like to leave it like this rather than here. Now if I leave the ball here, there's a good chance that when he kicks at that, of course I'm going to have my cue ball up here, when he kicks at this ball, he's got a very good likelihood of scratching in the hole. About 80% of all pool shots, you will discover that you're better off to have the cue ball go a little bit too far as opposed to not far enough. As an example, if I were going to shoot this 1 ball in the pocket and play position on the 2 ball, I've got all this big area up in here to have good position on the 2 ball. The only way I can mess this up is to go too far. I get down in here, I get in trouble. And it works vice versa. So a lot of shots, if you don't go far enough, you're in trouble. So that is something to be objective about and actually think firmly about it before you shoot. Okay. When you're warming up, it's a good policy not to shoot real difficult shots, especially when you've only been out of bed for a little while, until your muscles get a chance to loosen up. Because what happens is you shoot hard shots with extreme English and you're not going to be able to make them, and it's going to affect your confidence and your ability when you go into a match. So I recommend when warming up to shoot easy shots and set up easy layouts until you get loosened up, and then go into the more difficult shots. And you need to determine what is your own best personal time for warming up. Some people like 10 minutes, some people like 30 minutes, and some people are practicing every time you see them. It's just a personal matter, whatever suits you best. Now, I've absolutely got to say something about compensation in this tape. Anytime a pool player puts English on the cue ball, it causes it to curve. If you put left English on it, it makes it go in a path from right to left. Now, how much English you put on the cue ball, how big a distance you have between the cue ball and the object ball, how hard you shoot, what kind of tip you have, and what kind of stroke you have are all factors in determining how much this cue ball is going to curve. At any rate, knowing that it's going to curve, or deflect, some people call it, you have to make an adjustment for that. In other words, if this ball is curving and you aim, like for an example, if I were going to shoot this one ball in the left-hand pocket and I want to go around 4 cushions for a position on this 3 ball, if the cue ball curves and I don't make an allowance for it, I'm going to miss this 1 ball. The only way that you wouldn't have to make an allowance is if you had a stroke which curved it just enough so that it got back to where it would be if you shot in a straight line, if it got back to there with English, but most people don't have that kind of stroke. Now, I have to aim at this ball a couple of inches too thick. In other words, I've got to aim this 1 ball right here, about 2 inches over from the pocket, if I'm going to use running English, if I want to go around the table and get shape on a 3. That might not work exactly that number of 2 inches for you. You have to practice it and determine what's right for you. Okay, on a shot like this, where I would like to go 1, 2, 3, and down here for position on the 2 ball, I have to aim at this thicker too. I've got to aim this ball about 1 inch to the right of the pocket. Now, what's really important is that it doesn't matter what I tell you or anybody else tells you. What's important is that if you have certain types of shots that you continually hit too thick or too thin, you have to adjust it. If you have a shot like this and you repeatedly hit it into the end rail, you've got to aim over here to make it. And if you don't correct that in your game, you will probably make the same mistake time and time again. Contrary to what some cue makers will tell you, there has never been a cue stick made, in my estimation, that completely eliminates deflection. It is true that the rigidity of the shaft and certain aspects of the engineering properties of cue sticks will lessen the deflection, but if a cue maker tells you that his cue stick has 0 deflection, he doesn't know what he's talking about or he's lying. Now, in my opinion, all of the great cue makers make a good cue today. It's just a matter of personal preference. I have always preferred a metal jointed cue. I've never seen a shot that another player could make that I couldn't, with a little practice, duplicate. However, wood joints and other types of joints do have good properties, and you're capable of playing great pool with any type of cue stick from a major manufacturer. Over here. Okay. There is a very easy method of determining where the cue ball will go with the center ball hit. And I like to think of it as a dissecting line, although when I'm playing I don't think in that particular term. And all it is that you imagine to yourself that the cue ball is straight in on the ball. Like in this case, I'm going to shoot the 2 in this pocket. You imagine to yourself the cue ball being straight in on the 2, which is roughly where you'd have to hit it if you don't use extreme English of one kind or another. And you draw a dissecting line between the cue ball and the object ball, and right here is where the cue ball would go with the center ball hit. Now, assuming I pocket the ball and have a fairly true center ball hit, there's no other place for the cue ball to go. And you can adjust and adapt that for various kinds of situations in a pool game. Here's a good example of the dissecting line, as you may come to think of it, or you could call it anything you wanted. But at any rate, the dissecting line used for a safety. Now, if I imagine to myself that the cue ball comes off of this 5 ball at an angle like this, I draw my dissecting line, the cue ball has to go right here. So if I were going to play safe on this shot, it's all that's necessary for me to do is hit about 2/3 of the 5 ball as I come off the rail, and I should have a nice safety. That's very easy to do. Now I'm going to shoot a series of split shots, I call them, and the dissecting line is invaluable with this type of shot. In the first instance, here, what I'm going to do is pocket the 6 ball in this corner. Now, contrary to what an average player might think of using right-hand English, this is a much easier shot to use left-hand English, assuming all I have to do is pocket the 6. Now again, using the dissecting line, I just imagine to myself, roughly, like this, is going to make that 6 ball. So I'm actually going to turn that 6 in the hole with the help of a little left-hand English and a nice, smooth center ball hit. Here's the same shot from a little different angle. This time right-hand English, and I'm going to pocket the 9. This, for some reason, is a little harder to see variation. Another hard to see variation, but a very easy shot. I'll shoot this in this other direction. Here's one from the side pocket, and for some reason this one's real hard to see for a lot of players. The dissecting line is also a great method of determining whether or not frozen balls will kiss in the hole. In this example, the dissecting line is just about straight in the pocket. Now what that means is that the 3 will go or the 7 will go from this particular angle. All I have to do is just hit this ball and it's virtually unmissable. Now balls that are not frozen, all the frozen ball principles apply, but in a lesser degree. Obviously you cannot throw a ball quite as much that's not frozen as one that is frozen. Here's a nice example for the side pocket. I can see that I'm splitting the middle of the hole with the dissecting line, but that carries the 6 ball roughly to this point. So what I'm going to do is move the 6 ball a little bit that way by shooting a little bit harder with just a touch of draw. What draw does, it puts a little bit of high English on the 6 ball. Now I'm going to demonstrate 2 types of force shots. In the first one, what I'm going to do is force this 5 ball to go through the 1 ball and in the corner pocket. And that is done by hitting about a 2/3 thick 5 ball with low left-hand English. Now if I hit this shot properly, the cue ball will come back roughly to the first diamond. In this example, the 3 ball, the dissecting line takes it roughly to here, so I've got to force that 3 through the deuce quite a bit. So again, I'm going to hit it roughly 2/3 thick and draw the cue ball. Now with practice, you'll be able to ascertain just exactly how much to force the ball, and when the force called for is quite a bit, you might be better off to play safe. If it's just a little bit, you'll find that you can achieve a high degree of accuracy. When the cue ball is frozen on the rail and within 3 or 3.5 feet or so of the object ball, and you're going to shoot it roughly straight in, it helps to take a little firmer grip on the butt of the cue stick. The old timers had a little trick when they were straight in the pocket and the cue ball was frozen on the rail, and they wanted to stop the cue ball or even draw it a little bit or kind of punch it forward. What they would do is they would line up just like normal to make the ball and stop it. Then, at the moment of impact, they would be looking at the pocket rather than the ball. I didn't stop the ball, but I made it. That's always been one of my harder shots. It is always good to play against the sport rather than against opponent. You try to play the game the best you can every single time it's your shot and forget who's sitting in the chair. Now that seems hard to do when you're playing a Mike Siegel or a Buddy Hall or an Efren Reyes or a Steve Miserak. But with a little practice you'll find that you'll be able to do that. It is the proper way to attack the game. Okay, now I would like to talk a little bit about the legal jump shot. And it is an offensive weapon which has come to be quite a thing in 9-ball tournaments. Without it, you just can't beat the great players today. Legally speaking, a jump shot is considered good provided you hit down on the cue ball rather than scooping underneath it. Now the principle of it is, just to make a fair analogy, it's just like bouncing a basketball. When that basketball hits the floor, it has no choice but to go up. Now in this case, I'm going to pocket the one, and when I drive this cue ball down into the slate, it has no choice but to go up and over the balls. Now generally speaking, you don't want to be closer than about 10 inches or farther away than 2 feet for a jump shot to be sitting in the proper way. Okay, now when you're playing 9-ball, you know that if you miss the object ball, you give your opponent ball in hand. So obviously this is a great shot because on certain situations, you know that you're going to at least hit the ball and not give him ball in hand unless you scratch or something. Now, it is also possible to draw the ball, and that requires shooting down enough on the cue ball to put a backward stroke on it. Now you can actually hit any of several places on the cue ball and get this. Now the longer the shot, the harder it is to get draw on it. One final situation with the jump shot that I would like to show is this, and this actually came up in a game, and here was the situation. What happened was this. The person who had cue ball in hand had his opponent on 2 fouls. Now, everybody knows that 3 in a row, you lose playing 9-ball. So the guy was looking around like this, trying to find a way to play safe. And that's what he did. And he ended up losing the game. And somebody told him after the match was over, they said, why didn't you just roll the 2-ball up like that and make it impossible for the guy to hit the ball? And I happened to be standing there, and I told him, I said, well, he's not an automatic loser from there. And the guy said, what do you mean? That's impossible to hit. And I said, oh, no. So at any rate, here's how you hit a shot like this. That's how you do that. So it goes to show you don't ever have to give up. 9-ball is a much easier game to play safe at than straight pool, one pocket, or snooker, because you only have one ball to play safe. Now, common sense plays a big role in safety play at 9-ball. I'm going to show you a few safety shots that are, they may look rather basic, but oddly enough, a lot of players overlook them. In this first case, I'm going to shoot a ticky shot, which is a billiard shot, off of this one, and I'm going to leave the cue ball behind the 5 and 8. A very easy stroke, nice center ball. Now, in this next example, I'm going to leave my opponent behind the 5 and 8 ball, and the question that I run into here is where would I best like to leave the 1 ball? I actually have 2 or 3 ways to get the cue ball to the same place. Now, if I knock the 1 ball over here and put the cue ball here, I'm going to leave him a 1-rail kick. Now, if it's possible, I would like to avoid that. So what I'm going to do, instead of going through this ball with right-hand English and here, I'm going to make a thin hit on the 1 ball and try to go right into the 8 and he'll have to make a trick shot to hit the 1 ball. Now I've taken away a 1-rail kick this way. This time I'm going to shoot a 1-pocket safety, which is much easier than it looks like. What I'm going to do is go 1, 2 cushions, hit the 1. The cue ball is going to come all the way up to the end rail, and it's going to have right-hand English on it and come up behind the 2 and 5. That shot's not nearly as hard as it looks like, and it's a very good safety. Now, with a kick shot of this nature, with a kick shot of this nature, I would like to go 1 rail and hit the 1, and instead of the cue ball coming forward, which would happen if I had left hand running English on it, I'm going to put reverse kick English, which would be right English. After I hit the 1, the cue ball is going to hit the rail and come back down here, and I'll have my opponent safe. Now, this time, what I would like to do, instead of coming back this way, I would like it to hit the rail and come right off of here behind the 2 and 8. This time, I'm going to knock the 1 ball 2 rails and play a safety behind the 7 and 8 with high English. Okay. This time, I'm straight in on the 8 ball, and I have no realistic way to get position on the 9 at this end of the table. I could go rail first if I wanted to, but I would have to shoot the shot so hard that I'd probably jaw the 8, or maybe not even get down at this end anyway. So what I'm going to do is play a safety by making a nice thin hit on the 8 and just knocking it over to the end rail. The cue ball comes back down to this end rail. This is a great safety shot at 9 ball, and I personally think it's worth the price of the tape, just 1 shot alone. What I'm going to do here is play a safety on the 9 ball with draw. I'm going to hit it about 3/4 thick with some low and just a touch of left-hand English, and I'm going to double kiss the cue ball back down here, and the 9 ball will stay pretty close to that end rail. Here's the same shot from a little different angle. As you can see, that's an excellent safety. Here is a classic rail first draw safety. Now I could play to leave my opponent just behind the 7 ball. I'll show you that method first. But that is not as good as the other method. I didn't mean to come that close to scratching. I caught a piece of the 7 ball. At safety play, it is very important to never shoot up in the air and try for luck. Only by attempting to do something specific every time you're in a bad situation will you learn to play the game properly. And believe me, there's nothing more distracting to an opponent than to lose games and matches from positions where he thought he had you by the throat. When the object ball that you're shooting is frozen on the rail, there are 2 ways to make the ball and to make the hit and still pocket the ball. One is to go rail first, the other is to hit the object ball first rather than the rail. And which you select or which you happen to hit, even if you don't play one or the other, affects greatly what direction the cue ball will go. Like in this example, If I hit rail first, the cue ball will come straight down the table. I might even scratch here. Obviously, rail first wasn't the way to go there. Now, if I hit the ball first, the cue ball is going to go 1, 2, and right down here for position on the 9. From the side rail. If I hit rail first, I may scratch here, but I certainly won't get down here for the 9 ball. A ball first hit takes a cue ball 1, 2, 3, 4 for position on the 9 ball. Now, a ball first hit will enable you on shots of this nature where the ball is above the second diamond to get to the end rail. When the ball is as high as this and frozen on the rail, you'll have to either bank the ball or hit it with outside English to get position on the 9. Now, for some reason, most players don't feel that they can get position on a shot like this with outside English, but you can. All it requires is a little better hit. We'll have a stab at it. Rail first on frozen ball shots generally causes the cue ball to go slower. Now, on a shot of this nature, if I go rail first, the cue ball will travel towards this side of the table fairly slowly, and I should have a free shot due to the way the 4 and 8 ball are laying. And there I missed the ball, and as you can see, I have my opponent safe. We'll have another try and see if we can make that. As you can determine from the shots we've just been shooting, that it would be a foolish player who didn't bother to tell whether or not he was going to hit the rail first or the ball first. A little compensation is required with the use of English, but with a little practice you'll be able to make that ball first or rail first hit every single time you try the shot. On long, hard shots, all of us have a tendency to flail our arms and raise up on the shot. Luther Lassiter recommends lining up normally and then scrunching or moving your body up for 2 or 3 inches. I have experimented with his theory and found that it is not without merit. You can try this for yourself and it may or may not work, but certainly anything that would help on long shots is worth a try. Now myself, on long, hard shots like this 1 ball, I have to aim a little bit thicker at the ball towards the end rail side, about 1 inch. If I don't do this, invariably I overcut the ball. Now, it's even possible you might have to aim a little thinner. The important thing is that you work out for yourself what's right. Okay. Even the great players have to reevaluate the basics from time to time. I'd like very much to give you a personal checklist. Are you staying down? Are you following through? And are you looking at the object ball rather than the cue ball at impact? Is your tip in good shape? And are you playing with a cue stick that you're happy with? What about your personal rhythm, your tempo? Is it at its proper setting? Is your mental and physical conditioning what it should be for you to perform at the top of your game? Other important questions may occur to you. Remember them. Write them down if necessary. Following any loss, do you ask yourself honestly, why did I lose? After doing so, do you try to improve your weaker areas? Are you angry at yourself when you miss a shot that you know you should make? Sometimes when I'm playing or practicing, I imagine to myself that every great champion in the world is seated and watching my match. And I just try to not do anything unprofessional or foolish in their eyes. And even after doing all of these things, I still have my poor days, and so will you. But when you reach the stage where, because of a winning posture, determined attitude, you may still win on your bad days, just imagine what's going to happen on the good days. Don't make the mistake of underestimating the opposition. It's good policy to play every shot, each game, and all matches as if a world champion were your opponent. If you play loosely against a weak opponent, you'll pay dearly against top-flight competition. When you miss makeable shots, do you set them back up and shoot them however many times it takes to get it right? When you've lost a close match after having had a chance, do you go back to the pool room and examine the possibilities that may have eluded you? Maybe you should have played safe instead of going for the ball, or vice versa. What are you going to do when you're playing somebody who'll do anything short of murder to win? It's an excellent idea to have some plan to combat that type of person. If you're unprepared, and this situation should arise, you'll probably do just exactly what he wants, which is lose. All of these questions are of the self-help variety and are of great value when it comes to improving your pool game. The constant struggle for improvement is an inherent part of all good pool players. You may gather from these comments that it is incredibly difficult to master the time-honored, venerable sport of pocket billiards. That is very true. But there's no reason not to enjoy yourself while improving. And there really are some shortcuts. Of course, there's nothing wrong with playing this wonderful game just for the fun of it, but if you want to play it well, you've got to pay the price, which includes a lot of questioning and reevaluating. And now, why don't we shoot a little more pool?
Yeah.